For Dual Diploma English 2, the mock interview project can be found here under Everyday English 3, Module 10 and 11. When you click on it, you're going to get William Shakespeare's very enthusiastic voice. So I am going to just show you where to find the attachment. After listening to Shakespeare, I want you to download this attachment right here. Alright, so I clicked on mock interview project just to turn Shakespeare off. You can listen to him and then see this downloaded file. He will pull it up for you and talk about it a little bit, but we're going to go into it in detail. This is where you'll upload your project. You will open and you will submit it here. You can copy it and paste it here or attach it and submit it. So let's take a look at what we just took from the web page. I already have it open. You will save this on your computer. This is what it should look like. So for this project, you will find a job posting that you may like to apply for if you were already completed with your studies. So a job posting means that either in a newspaper or in an online web page, there is an advertisement for a job that you could fill, and you are going to find one. So where would you find it? You could look on online websites, you could look in newspapers, anywhere where employment is being advertised. Then you will write a minimum 2-page script. A script is a dialogue. So you would put in a Word document, you would put your name and the name of the employer as the two people speaking. So the way you could do that is you can open up a new file, blank document, and then your script will look something like this. Employer, and then you would have the speech, hello, I am pleased to meet you. This is going to look a little bit like the Burlington dialogues that you have completed. And then you could say me for whatever speech you are speaking with, or you can say applicant, the person who's applying for the job, or you can write your name. And you can say, I am so grateful for the opportunity to interview for this job. That may be the first thing that you say. So let's find out what you will say in this interview. Again, this is going to be 2 pages, so you can expect to have employer, not employer. You can expect to have employer, applicant alternating for 2 whole pages. If it's 2 pages long, you've written enough. If it's a little bit more, that's okay. If it's a little bit less, that's okay with me, but just try to keep it around the 2-page mark so that it satisfies what the assignment is asking. And again, you are the employer, you are the candidate, and you will be speaking with the employer. Another word you can use in your script, by the way, is candidate. Let's go ahead and change that. Candidate. All right. So let's take a look. What kinds of questions might the employer ask you? That's going to depend on the kind of job that you're applying for. So if it's for a job in a law firm, for example, they might ask you about your educational background. Have you studied law? What is your level of education in that field? And then how would you respond? Again, assuming you are already completed with your studies. So you don't have to say, oh, I have not been to college yet. No, pretend that you've already been to college, you've already studied, perhaps you've already gone to a graduate program and you already have a master's or a doctorate in your field. You can imagine all the possibilities. It is up to you. Now, how might they ask you to clarify or explain your answers? So if you remember in the activity you did where you were asked to communicate clearly, those of you who are taking the life management skills class, you were asked to use effective listening statements. You can use some of those here. So for example, the employer might listen to your answers and might respond with something like, so correct me if I'm wrong, what I heard you say was that you studied law for 3 years at the University of, I guess, Salamanca, for example. And you would respond, yes, that is correct. That's exactly what I said. Okay? So that's the kind of exchange that can happen in this dialogue. Remember, the more realistic it feels, the better the grade. So you got to think, how would a realistic interview feel? And you can definitely ask your parents or somebody who has been in an interview before. Anybody who has a job has had to interview for that job. So you can ask anybody you know who is employed, and I'm sure they'll be able to tell you, oh, well, it was a little bit intimidating, but we also spoke a little bit about our hobbies, and we spoke a little bit about where we're places we've visited, because an employer will frequently have a casual conversation just to see what you're like, just to find out if you're a nice person, if you're easy to talk to. All of that will go into an interview because they're trying to get to know you, besides just finding out if you are right for the position. Okay, so just to review a couple very important things. In a typical interview, the employer wants to find out if you're right for the job. They want to find out if you are an easy person to get along with. And all of that, you can decide what kind of questions to ask and what kind of responses based on the type of job you're applying for. Now, this project will be worth 20 points toward the overall grade, so it's a pretty big deal. This is how it will be graded. So the employer perspective, the conversation should reflect the various kinds of questions an employer would ask during the course of an interview. The questions are not only general but specific to the type of job. Okay, so if it's a job to drive a truck across the country, they might ask, well, what makes you think you would like driving a truck for many hours from one side of the country to the other? Is this something that you've done before? Do you enjoy road trips? You know, all of these types of questions, depending on the types of job you might imagine asking. And then the employee perspective. So this is another way of saying the candidate. Okay, employee would be you because you want to get the job. Candidate, right? Conversation reveals how the potential employee would respond to the interview questions being asked. And the interviewee is another way of saying the person who's being interviewed. In other words, you. The interviewee's responses are thoughtful and give specific insight into this should say that. Sorry, there's a typo. How that person is qualified for the specific position. So you, or the person whose voice you're using, needs to show that they're qualified, either through their experience, their previous jobs, their education, their likes and dislikes, their talents, all that could be in the interview. So realism. The interview should feel as if it could be real, and you could read it to somebody out loud to see if it sounds like it's something that could actually happen. And then try to take time and put effort into elaborating in the conversation. Make it sound like a real conversation. There should be greetings, pleasantries. Now, mechanics. It should be well organized. So if you have a good method of labeling your interview with, for example, employer, candidate, and that way I can clearly see who is speaking, that's a nice way to organize your interview. Make sure you write formally and not colloquially. You're definitely not going to show up to an interview and say, hey man, how's it going? So good to meet you today. Let's just chill for a little while. That's not how you would speak. You would definitely speak formally. Hello, how are you? Pleased to meet you. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. You would want to speak with formal speech. Make sure you proofread and spell check, and it should be a minimum of 2 typewritten pages. All right, so please email me if you need help. Try to get this done as soon as you can. If you need any help, even after the due date, I can help you, no problem. The sooner you reach out to me, though, the better. So I hope this video was helpful. If you need any more help, the only other thing I'm going to suggest is that you go to YouTube and you click on sample job interview and find a video that shows tips for a successful job interview, and then you can kind of see examples of what they sound like or what people look like, what kind of questions they ask, and then you can use some of those questions for your project. Okay? If you need help finding an interview, let me know and maybe I can find a video and send it to you. So, but you're pretty resourceful, so I'm sure you can do it. Let me know if you need any other help. Thank you so much.